You're tuned in to the Money Mama podcast. Thank you so much for joining as we chat everything from motherhood, entrepreneurship, health, wealth, and happiness. We'll have guest speakers joining on a variety of topics, and although I'm not the expert, you've come to the right place for a real talk perspective from a mompreneur. Enjoy the adult conversation, mamas. Hello. Thank you for joining me yet again for another podcast with the Money Mama. I appreciate you being here. We're going to get right into it because this is a topic that a lot of moms have asked me for advice on. And I'm so excited to cover it or do my best to cover it. As I was putting together an outline for this one, I realized there's a lot to unveil with this topic. So I might not get through the whole concept on this podcast, but I'm thinking it might leave room for a future episode based on what not to do. But today we're going to focus on what to do, all related to baby sleep. And so you may be wondering where the intersection is between baby sleep, yes, that ties into motherhood, but entrepreneurship. The reality is, if we don't get proper sleep, we can't operate at an optimized level. So it's going to be harder for us to run our business. It's going to be harder for us to take care of our family. And it's going to be harder for us to take care of our kiddies, which obviously is a priority for all of us as mamas. So I just want to explain real quick before we get into it. Today I'll be sharing 10 fundamental tips for improving baby sleep that have really worked for me. I'm not a sleep expert. I'm not officially trained in sleep, but I want to tell you a little bit about my experience and what's worked for me and why I want to unravel this topic and why it's so near and dear to my heart as a mompreneur. So a lot of moms I talk with are like, well, I just don't have time. Like the number one thing they sacrifice because they have so many other things going on. My suggestion to you would be to sacrifice something else. I know that sounds crazy, but sleep is critical. You can't give from an empty cup. So you trying to take care of the kids and the family and business and all the damn things without having enough energy or proper sleep as a part of your natural routine, you will tap out, you will become unhappy, and you won't be as effective. Now you may be like, well, what the hell? I came here to hear about baby sleep. All I care about is my baby getting to sleep. I get it, but I'm here to let you know they go hand in hand. So I think the biggest thing for me getting started with baby sleep is to understand the importance of sleep in general for overall health. Sleep is really critical to your baby's development, but also for us as adults, especially if you're a mom, especially if you're breastfeeding. The key is sleep is so critical, even for adults, kids, teenagers, you name it. The thing is, our bodies aren't optimized to boost our immunity and fight off infection and disease unless we get sleep. Sleep is literally more critically important to your overall health than any medicinal or pharmaceutical drug and any herbal supplement or natural supplement. Sleep is more important to your overall health and wellness than any of that. So it's important also for your mental health. And so one thing I want to bring up of why this topic is near and dear to my heart is because I really, really struggled with this. I mean, I definitely struggled with sleep when my firstborn was in the hospital very sick. Just wasn't in my world at that phase of my life. In fact, nurses would have to force me to go try to sleep. I will say it affected my mental health even through that experience because you're a lot more stressed And I just remember like when friends or family came to visit, I'd literally be having like a 20, 30-minute lunch with them down at the cafeteria in the hospital. And I remember my body just feeling so drained and like just depleted of energy. You know, when you're just tapped out. So that's not a way that you want to function at all, especially not when you're in a stressful situation already. But just in general, we all are here to set a good example for our kids. And if we're not getting sleep and our kids are seeing this is the lifestyle that we operate from, it's the same difference as if I never work out or drink my water or implement any healthy habits for my kids to see. And if you're sitting here listening and you're like, well, Steph, I don't even work out, there's no shame on you at all. You're not getting any sleep. Once you get sleep, your world will open up and more options will come to you, and to each their own. But I will say for overall health, sleep is number one. Like I'll take sleep over working out any day because the health benefits of sleep for your immunity and overall wellness far surpasses basically anything else other than maybe drinking water that you can do for your well-being. So anyway, I'm not going to get deeper into that because the focus of this podcast is to help you guys with baby sleep, but I just wanted to add that precursor before we got really into it. So the other key thing about baby development is sleep is really critical because a lot of their development happens in their sleep. So that's why you'll notice, actually, in part, why you'll notice that if a baby is learning a new skill, they're learning to roll over, they're learning to sit up or whatever, typically their sleep struggles for a few days and they practice that new skill that they're learning. So that's part of everything that I've learned. So how the heck do I know all this? I became obsessed with baby sleep from the time I was pregnant with my second child, who is my oldest healthy child right now, Jewel. When I was pregnant with her, I was like, my number one concern and stress factor right now as I'm pregnant is I want to make sure my kids can sleep. I want to make sure that I can sleep. I need to have a life. And so I joined a sleep baby seminar, which I'll tell you guys about. Stay till the end because I'll share all my resources with you. And I was like a super nerd. I plugged into like 4 different seminars. I studied really hard on baby sleep. And the reality was, yes, some of the information was valuable, but nothing compares to once the baby is actually here. I felt so prepared. I'm like, I got this. I'm going to be good. And so there was one night I was really stressed. I was listening to a seminar on baby sleep, and my daughter, she just had this waking witching hour from like 9 p.m. till like at least 11 or 12, where she was just like screaming, crying. You'd rock her, you'd put her in the baby swing, like do all the things. Nothing was working to put her to sleep. I put her on the boob. She's not falling asleep on the boob. Daddy takes her, not falling asleep. Like I remember the rocking chair being in the middle of our living room and me just falling asleep with her on me just so I could get like an hour or maybe 40 minutes of sleep. And so I was having a really hard time. I really, really was. Most people I knew, especially other mothers, just said, oh, just sleep when the baby sleeps, or that's just part of being a new mom. Like you're going to be exhausted. And I accepted that. And I just kept telling myself it's going to get easier. It's going to get easier. I'm here to tell you guys that is bullshit. It is not necessary and a requirement of motherhood that once the baby's born, you just automatically, it's like an automatic, you're never going to sleep again. There is a way to get sleep. There is a way to get your babies to sleep. And I get it. Everybody says every baby is different and like babies act differently. Yes, of course, that's all true. But truthfully, there are some fundamental things that will make a difference if you get on them early. I can speak to this through experience of having 2 kids under 2 right now and being able to sit here recording this podcast after the house is fully asleep. Like hubby's off to work right now. I'm chilling. Both babies are sleeping. So let's talk about what I did. Now, I do also want to make it clear I'm not an expert in this. I just went based off of my research and what I've learned from a variety of resources and what has worked for me. So please don't freak out and be like, I tried your method and you said it would work and it didn't work. Listen, I have two different kids, completely different personalities, and these methods work effectively with both of them. And keep in mind, my two children are 17 months and 4 months. So if your kids are older and you're struggling with sleep, there's probably completely different methods and resources you can leverage. The one resource that I'll share with you at the end is great because it does talk about sleep at all ages. But I will say, amongst all the research, one thing that is consistent is that the earlier you do it, the easier it will be throughout your process. So I remember one night just being so stressed. Jewel was just screaming, and I'm so fortunate to have a really supportive partner. He's amazing. And I just remember him like grabbing my face. He used to wake up at least for one feed through the night. Jewel was waking up every 2 to 3 hours to eat. And I was also obsessed with making sure she ate every 2 to 3 hours because the doctors always tell you, oh, you got to make sure you're feeding enough and your milk comes in and all of this because I was breastfeeding. And I was obsessed with it. I was obsessed. I was using an app to record her pees and poops and her sleep and did I feed her on the right boob or the left boob, and if I fed her on the wrong boob I like beat myself up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I fed her on the wrong boob. I was so stressed, like maximum stress level. And I just remember bawling my eyes out, and he literally just grabbed my face, like hands on both sides of my face, like Home Alone, and just like grabbed it and made me lock my eyes into his. I was holding Jewel, and he just looked at me and he said, it's going to be okay. Take a deep breath. Like everything's going to be fine. And this is as I was debating paying $700 a month for an official sleep consultant. I was that tapped out and desperate. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that. Like maybe people need that, of course. But I look back now and I'm just like, what was I thinking? Like now that I've actually learned what works for my kids. But the main thing that was a breakthrough when he said that is everything in motherhood is temporary. Right now, CJ's sleeping 6, 7 hours straight, maybe 8. That's temporary. That's going to be temporary. Like everything is temporary, the good and the bad. So mentally, when you think in the midst of that like stormy night and the kid is just screaming at the top of their lungs and you can't resolve it, one thing that got me through moving forward was just reminding myself everything is temporary. It's not going to be like this every day. However, you also can't just lean on the idea that, oh, this is just part of being a mom and they're just naturally gonna not want to sleep for a while and it'll all work out. Like they'll learn to sleep. The biggest thing I learned through my research is that sleep is a skill. You actually need to train your babies to sleep. You need to teach them how to sleep. So I don't know if this is like mind blowing to any of you because when I first heard it explained, I was like, whoa, I didn't even think of it that way. But it really made me think differently about baby sleep in particular. And I will tell you the difference with CJ, my son now, with sleep training him. We basically started sleep training essentially right from birth. Like I didn't do the 2 hour wake up every 2 hours to feed. And again, I'm not a nurse or a doctor. If your doctor tells you to do that, make sure you do that. But I was just like, sleep is number one priority. Like that was my focus right away with CJ. And the difference at this age, Jewel was still waking up every 2 to 3 hours, maybe every hour. I would go in and feed her, and she would still be screaming. I would change her diet. I would do all the things, and she would still be screaming and crying. You may just think, oh, it's a difference in personality. No, it's a difference in when I started sleep training her. So it took me a while to actually do some training with her, whereas CJ has started it right away. So today I'm going to share 10 fundamental tips, but like I said, there's going to be way more that you can unpack than what I'm just sharing here today. But yeah, so stay tuned till the end because like I said, I'm going to share some awesome resources that have really helped me. But let's talk about this. You have to teach your kids how to sleep. So the first fundamental tip I want to share is that there's this sleep regression, they call it, at around 3 to 4 months. And they call it a sleep regression, but it's not a true regression because what it actually is, your baby's sleep is changing. They're actually physiologically changing from sleeping where you can just like drop them anywhere. Jewel would like fall asleep on the boob, and I would be like, oh, she's finally asleep. And then I would just literally put her onto the floor and she'd be passed out for like 3 hours or whatever amount of time, right? Or she'd fall asleep on the boob and I'm like, I remember just sitting there watching TV or reading a book and having her on the boob, and I felt like I had to be a statue. I couldn't move, I couldn't function at all. I would just have to sit there for 3 hours. I remember calling my man and being like, babe, sorry, dinner's not going to get made today because I have to sit here now with Jewel on my boob for 3 hours because she fell asleep and I don't want to wake her up. Like, it was so bad. And I don't know if you guys are, I don't mean to laugh if you're experiencing this. I'm just sharing there is a better way. So, foundational tip number one is understanding that around that 3 to 4 month mark, they actually go from sleeping all in one chunk and then waking up to actually sleeping like adults in sleep cycles. So the key to remember about this is that as adults, we actually sleep in cycles. So we'll wake up through the night, and it's not consciously because we're so used to it. We've already been sleep trained as adults, right? And we'll wake up and we actually do what's called an environmental check. So we'll have a look at our surroundings, just make sure we're still alive, make sure everything makes sense, and go back into a deep sleep and continue the sleep cycles, right? I want you to think of it this way. Let's say you fell asleep in your bed, all cozy, and you were so comfortable under the blanket. And then when you woke up, you're on an air mattress floating in the lake. Like, how terrifying would that be? So this is the same thing that kids kick into with that sleep cycle around 3 to 4 months. They will naturally wake up. They can actually be quite noisy in their sleep. And so if they fall asleep on the boob and then all of a sudden they wake up in their crib, they're like, what the heck is going on? And it can cause them to panic and startle. So that's one thing to remember. And it's stuck in my head now. Like, I want to make sure that as I'm putting them to sleep, even if it's going to be a little bit harder in the beginning, you want to train them to fall asleep themselves and self-soothe. So when you put them down to sleep, they should be slightly awake, definitely drowsy, like it's clear that they're ready to go to sleep, so you can rock them in the beginning. I'll tell you more tips in a sec, but you can rock them and do whatever you do to get them kind of drowsy, but you want to put them down into their crib still aware of what's going on so they can see themselves being placed in the crib, or they can see the sheet of the crib or whatever. This is very important because you have to teach them to fall asleep independently. And so they may chew on their hands. That's not always a sign that they're hungry. It can also be a self-soothing mechanism, or sucking their thumbs, or clicking their tongue, or like CJ, his sleep indication right now is he like almost groans. He's like, eh. It's really cute. But I know I'm picking up on his sleep cues. So that's something you can be aware of, is get to know your child. Don't obsess so much on like a schedule. I did that with Jewel and that was a mistake. I was so stressed all the time. I'd be like, oh, she fell asleep yesterday at 1:30. Why is it 2 o'clock and she hasn't fallen asleep? Like, they're human beings. That's another thing my man told me one day. He's like, listen, she's not a robot. She's a human. Like, sometimes she'll be more sleepy than other days. That's true too. So the easiest way is to not obsess about a schedule, but focus on wake windows. So you can look up wake windows anywhere. According to their age, there's a typical wake window. So, how much time a baby could typically stay awake without getting tired. Now, if they're overtired, that's a whole different level. And I suspect that's what happened with Jewel a lot, why she was so irritable around 9 to like 11 or 1 a.m. is because she was overtired. So a lot of people think like if you let them like stay awake more throughout the day, they're going to sleep better at night. No, that's not the way that babies work. It's actually true that the more well they sleep during the day, the better they'll sleep through the night. And I can attest to this personally. So the quality of sleep is not based on a full 24 hours. Within that 24 hours, they have to have a certain amount of sleep. Like, yes, there's a certain amount of sleep that babies at certain ages will typically have in a full 24 hours, but it doesn't work where it's like, okay, I'm not going to let her sleep as much during the day so that she can sleep more at night. No, the more sleep deprived they are, they actually kick into overtired mode. And babies, when they're overtired, even though they're exhausted, you'd think they just want to sleep, but they're wired to fight sleep even more. So when you get into that overtired cycle, it's just like a whole another level of madness. And if you've experienced this, I know you're feeling me right now, but that is what we're trying to avoid at all costs. So wake windows are really, really helpful for that. And their wake window may be slightly different than what you'd find on Google. So you have to watch your baby to indicate their sleep cues. Let's get into number 2. Oh my gosh, I love this tip. It was a game changer for me. It was one of the first things I did when I was frustrated with like with Jewel's sleep. And I finally said, F it, I'm going to start implementing some of these things, even though it says you shouldn't do this until she's a certain age. Blackout. I'm talking blackout curtains. Like you're supposed to be in the room and not even be able to see your hand in front of you or read a book or anything like that. Blackout. My man called Jules' room the meth lab. I went crazy one night. It was like the middle of the night. He was at work working night shift, and I literally taped garbage bags over the window in layers because even though we had the blackout curtains, there was still like a creep of light that could come in from the top of the curtain. Like blackout, full blackout. Her room to this day is full blackout. I also put electrical tape over all the little lights. So the little light on the humidifier, the little light on the baby monitor. Don't even get me started about why they've designed baby monitors that have lights integrated. Like the baby monitor we used to flash when she made a noise. And I'm like, is that not the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life? Baby wakes up and then the baby monitor starts flashing to keep them awake. Like it just made absolutely no sense. Needless to say, we replaced that baby monitor. But like even like mobiles or any night lights, any of that, babies are not afraid of the dark. Get it out of your head. Maybe toddlers, once they're a little bit older, I'm still not there yet, but babies are not afraid of the dark. It's easier to so that they don't have any distractions that are taking their attention and keeping them awake. So no mobiles. We have a mobile, but we use it for her change table. Nothing is in the crib. It is well, now she sleeps with a blanket, but at the time, blackout. Blackout. I'm telling you, it makes a world of a difference because when they wake up, now that they're learning those sleep cycles and they have that natural environmental check, they're going to look around them. And if all they see is darkness, that's how they fell asleep in the dark. Like they saw it and now they just close their eyes and go right back to sleep. So blackout. And blackout for all their naps as well. So ideally, you would bring them into their sleep space for all of their naps and everything. Sleep is just always in the same place. And you know what? I heard this tip, and like I said, Jewel, we were a little delayed with sleep training her, but with CJ, we started out with having him like we had a bassinet in the living room and in the kitchen because I was trying to figure out how to do two under two, and I like thought I had to have an eye on both of them all the time. And then I started leveraging our baby monitor for CJ. And when he was ready for a nap, I took him to his room and put him down in his room, blackout. And that made a huge difference than when I was just letting him fall asleep. Maybe he'd only go to sleep for like 30 minutes if we were in the living room, the playroom, or the kitchen, because there's so much happening. So as soon as he wakes up naturally out of that sleep cycle, he's seeing things around him, and of course he's going to wake up again. Yeah, blackout, 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 blackout. So, number three, white noise machine and have a quiet room. So, if you have to go into the room, try to be as quiet as possible. It's business when you go in there. What I mean by that is your job is to either feed them, change them, or soothe them, whatever you have to do. Really, they should be soothing themselves once you get this sleep training going, but it's business. Quiet time. When it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. But white noise machine makes a really big difference because it's fading out all the background noise. White noise machine for Jewel really made a huge difference for sure. She still uses a white noise machine now, and not just white noise temporarily, white noise for the entire night. So her white noise machine is playing from the moment I put her down for any of her naps and any of her overnights, white noise machine playing the whole time, continuous. And not every white noise machine has continuous play like that. So I will link the one that I love, that I actually got the portable version. So when we're out and about, I have one that is connected to their car seat. That one's not continuous, but it's okay because we're out and about. They're not going to be sleeping the whole time. And then I just got a second one for CJ in his room because I want a continuous option that when they wake up from that sleep cycle, again, everything goes back to the fact that they're learning how to sleep again. They're learning how to sleep in sleep cycles. When they wake up from that sleep cycle, the same noise is happening and it's distracting from any other noises going on, and they can just lull back to sleep. So, white noise machine, big game changer for us for sure. Number four is the 10-minute rule. You guys, I had a breakthrough with this. I know when you hear your baby, especially if it's your first baby, especially if they're in the room with you, it is so heart-wrenching to hear them cry. And you just want to run to them because you want to be a good mom and you want to take care of them. And I was talking with another mom the other day that was like, I'm worried about their emotional development. Listen, let your baby cry for a sec. I am not endorsing the full cried out method. I don't personally believe in that, although it has worked for many people. What I am endorsing is the 10-minute method. And when I started doing this, I was mind blown how well it worked. This was probably the first phase of sleep training for me because I was so nervous about sleep training. I was so nervous to like let my baby cry and make her all sad. And Cam was really nervous about it too, so it just amplified my nervousness and my apprehension. But the 10-minute rule, when you hear a baby cry or like squeak or start to wrestle or whatever in bed, we have a tendency to jump up and like go right to them. Oh, they must need something. Listen, babies sleep loudly, and because around that 3 to 4 month mark, they are transitioning to sleeping in sleep cycles, they are going to make noise. Wait 10 minutes before you go in, before you go to them. Even if they're sleeping right next to you, wait 10 minutes. I would literally put my phone on a timer for 10 minutes. I'm telling you, and wait the full 10 minutes. It could be like 9 minutes and 30 seconds and they're still crying. They may be like wailing, like full on crying. There is a difference, and you will be able to tell once you start this 10-minute method, but wait 10 minutes. I'm telling you, even if it's 9 minutes and 30 seconds, there's something that happens at 10 minutes where they may just put themselves right back to sleep. I'm telling you, it works so well. It's been a game changer. That was the first eye-opening experience when I started sleep training Jewel. And now with CJ, we just did that last month. And I was like, the 10-minute method works with CJ too. I was so excited because hubby and I were like watching a movie and we heard CJ wake up, and I was like, oh, I gotta go get him. And Cam was like, oh, I'll go get him. And then I was like, you know what? Let's wait. Let's just wait. And he was like really crying. And then we set it to 10 minutes, and within like 8 minutes, he fell right back to sleep. And I was like, oh my gosh. And we just continue watching our movie and enjoy our night. And this is just a reminder, you can have a life like that where you have free time to yourself and you can do your own thing. Like I am a success story for that, let me tell you guys. So 10-minute mark, I just give it a try. Just give it a try. Wait 10 minutes before you go in. It's okay. They're not gonna, like, nothing drastic is gonna happen. Sure, you might piss off the neighbors, but most neighbors will understand. Trust me, in the long run, the baby will get used to, like, oh, they're not going to come. Unless something's really wrong with them, of course, go in. Your job as a mother is not to run at every cry. Like, I want you to think about this. Like, your job is to let them live and grow into their own being and teach them to be self-sufficient. That includes from being a baby. I'm not saying they should get up and make their own breakfast, of course not. But when it comes to sleep, it is, like I said earlier, something that needs to be taught. So think of it that way. You're teaching your kids how to sleep. And part of that is showing them, listen, you're upset because you just woke up from that sleep cycle. Everything's going to be okay. You can suck your thumb and go back to sleep. You can suck your fist and go back to sleep. Everything's fine. So that's number 4. Number 5 is really, I kind of covered it already. It's self-soothing. Give them a second to self-soothe. They need to learn how to do it for themselves. So that also means you want to eliminate as many sleep props as possible. So sleep props are things that babies become reliant on as an indication that they're about to go to sleep. So maybe you always let them fall asleep in the swing, or you always let them fall asleep with a pacifier. Now, I'm not judging anyone that uses a pacifier at all, but babies can become reliant on it, and then you have to wean them off a pacifier later. Jewel never really liked a pacifier, and we were adamant with Camson that he's not going to use a pacifier at all. So neither of my kids use pacifiers. I think we have a pacifier for CJ in case we're out and about and he gets really hungry and I can't like feed him in that moment. But the pacifier is only used for like 10 minutes of him just being irritable while we're out and about. It's not used as a sleep prop because then they'll become reliant on that to fall asleep. And if they don't have it, all of a sudden they're not sleeping. So think in the middle of the night, if they lose their pacifier, it falls onto the ground, they can't reach it from their crib. Now they're not sleeping because they don't have their sleep prop. Same thing goes with the boobs, mamas, or the bottle. If you are feeding them to sleep every time and that's the only way they know how to fall asleep, they're going to be glued to you until they're 4 years old. I'm telling you, I know moms that have experienced this because the only way their kid will fall asleep is on the boob. So again, you need to teach them how to sleep. So here's the thing. There's a lot to unpack. I've literally only gone over 5 of my 10 foundational tips. I wasn't expecting to go on all these tangents, but again, you're getting to know me. This is how I do. So I actually think that this is a good time to like stop this podcast this time around. I want to give you guys just enough of a dose of adult real talk to keep your week going. But I know how it is as a mom. You don't have the time to sit here and listen to a 2-3 hour podcast. So I'm not going to do that to you. I'm here for you, mamas. I got you. Don't worry about it. Also, I want to enjoy the rest of my me time that I earned through sleep training. So next time I'm going to get into talking a little bit about the mental mindset you need to have going into sleep training. And I'm also going to share with you the last 5 foundational tips for sleep training that have worked well for me. I can't wait to kind of wrap up and get all your feedback I will share with you my quick money minute for the day as we come in for a landing here. Today was the first day my daughter, we've been reluctant to do this, but she was like playing in the snow. So that was a really cool moment. I was really excited about that. And she was like really curious about the snow and just wanted to trek through it. I can't wait till she's a little bit older and she can actually do like snow angels and stuff. But now I'm on a mission to find a good pair of snow pants for myself as an adult because she has her own. And now I just can't wait to like throw her in the snow and play with her because she got really excited about it. I was kind of anxious about whether or not she was going to like snow, and she seems to like it. So that was my money minute of the day, just reminding myself of what I have to be grateful for, how fast she's growing, and just tap into the enjoyment of that experience. So, yeah, that was my money minute of the day. Thank you so much for joining. Again, next time we'll cover more foundational tips. And also, I will share some resources with you at the bottom. But essentially, there's a really great sleep seminar, baby sleep seminar I leveraged. It got me a little bit stressed because it's kind of information overload, but that is where I essentially learned the basic fundamentals of the sleep, the fact that they start to sleep in sleep cycles and at what age that happens and all that good stuff. I learned about the fourth trimester. So that was really great as a foundational seminar. I attended it when I was pregnant with Jewel, and then I also attended it once Jewel was here again, and I also attended it as a reminder when I was pregnant with CJ again. So I definitely think there's a lot of value there, and they kind of switch up the way they do it each time. They're very helpful. Sorry, the link is through Facebook, but I'll share it at the bottom of my podcast here. The next resource I would really recommend to leverage is another YouTuber. Her name is Emma Hubbard. She's an occupational therapist. I absolutely love her videos. They're short and sweet, to the point, and she has some great videos on baby sleep. So I will share one of her videos here for you to check out right after this podcast. Thank you so much for joining. And then next time I'll share some other resources that go hand in hand with my further foundational tips to help with baby sleep. It is such a big topic, probably one of the most stressful stress factors for moms. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking it more with you. Please share with me in the comments if you liked this podcast, you like this topic, you want me to share more about my experience with this. If there's anything you want me to work on or any other topic you guys are interested in hearing about, let's cheers to 2023. Big goals being hit, big things happening. And as a mompreneur, we can do it all. We can get it all. We just need to put in the work for it. So we'll tap in a little bit more into that mindset training that will support you to getting good sleep, your kiddies getting good sleep, and everyone thriving in 2023. Thank you so much again for listening. I am the Money Mama, and I can't wait to reconnect with you on the next one.